in your back garden? I planned on moving to a house, not the bush. But now that you mention it, yeah, that seems like a brilliant idea. Joy is greater than 1,000 sorrows. What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Louise and today is the 28th of August 2019 and I have officially been living in South Africa now for 6 years. I feel like I want to do something special and celebrate this day with you all, so this video is something completely different. What the hell happened to my voice? Sorry. This video is something completely different for my channel, but if you like this type of thing then let me know in the comments below. I can literally talk for days about England and South Africa. So yes, I traded my life in England, a first world country, to move to South Africa where there's no music, no internet, no TV. I have lions in my back garden and there's no electricity. Okay, for the most part I'm being sarcastic, but that last one's actually true. But that's another story. Before I begin, I just want to say that this is my story, my experience. It's what I thought and felt when I was making this change. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to like up and leave their country and just move halfway across the world, nor am I trying to change anyone's opinions of England or South Africa. Like I said, this is just my story. So let's go back 6 years. I always knew that I wanted to leave England. Granted, I didn't plan on moving to South Africa. I actually was planning on going to either America or Australia. But there I was in England working for an award-winning company, had my own car, had my own place. I was living with my boyfriend at the time, who is Afrikaans. See the link? And we used to always talk about leaving England. So, a series of unfortunate events. Skip past all of those. My boyfriend at the time came to South Africa. He had an uncle who passed away, and while he was here he actually looked for a job transfer. So we spoke about it before he left. There I am sitting in England sending his CV out to people here in South Africa. He's doing all the interviews and lo and behold he gets a transfer. Literally within 4 weeks we had left England and we were living in South Africa. Like, that's how quickly we made this happen. So now we've made the decision, we're leaving England, we're going to South Africa, and now it's time to tell all our family and friends. That was an interesting one. So obviously everyone supported us, they wanted us to, you know, be happy and follow our dreams, and some of the responses that we got though, I mean, like, one of my friends, bless her, Tina, I love you to the world, but she literally asked me, will you have lions in your back garden? And, you know, my mum, bless her, I'm going to embarrass her now as well, like, she'll turn around and she'll say, there's this new song that's been released, do you get music in South Africa? Or like, you know, mums, they worry, I know now having my kids, but she'll literally go, so I heard there was like an incident in Kenya. Are you safe? They're not going to come after you, are they? I'm like, I live in South Africa. Like, that's the biggest like difference between everything, is people just think South Africa is the south of Africa. Like, it's not a separate country. So if I say I'm from the south of England, I'm from the south of England. I'm not from a country called South England. Where in South Africa and Africa, you know, like, Africa's not even a country, it's a continent, and the country is South Africa. And a lot of people get that misconception. So now, you know, we get things like, why would you go to South Africa? There's no whites there. Or like my boyfriend at the time, he would have, you're South African, why aren't you black? And it's just the lack of knowledge within, not maybe like I'm going to generalize within the country and within the world, but it's the lack of knowledge that people don't have that led them to those conclusions. And, you know, looking back, it is really funny and we can have like a big like ha-ha laugh about it now type of moment. But at the time, it was almost like quite discouraging, because it was coming across like I was making a really bad decision, and I'd really like set my heart on it. I was so happy. I just wanted other people to be happy for me, And then we're getting all sorts of different questions like about the country, like, do you have TV in South Africa? Are you going to live in a shack? Like, no. Really? Like, I'm going to trade in my life in England in a nice warm house to go to South Africa and live in a shack. Like, I'm baffled. Safe to say, we're not together anymore, but I loved the country that much that I stayed. Like, obviously my mum's there going, come back to England, you know, you come live with me, start again, I miss you, etc, etc, etc. And I was just like, no, like, I'm out of England, I don't want to go back. I'm happy in South Africa, I've got a life here, I've got a job, I've got friends, and I'm really enjoying my life. I like where I am in my life at this moment in time. So I didn't own a car, I didn't own a house, but everything that I had planned for my life in that instance and wanting to own a house, etc, etc, although that didn't plan out, moving to South Africa, being here, being immersed in the culture and the language, like Afrikaans, it's just so beautiful. And I love the music, I really do. Like, most of the music I listen to is Afrikaans, and for the better part, like, I understand it. I'm not 100% fluent, that's something that I really do want to actually learn, but I would sit, like, even in England, I would sit at my desk, I would be like typing away an email on the phone to like a client, obviously speaking English, and my other ear, there I am listening to Afrikaans music. Like, it was absolutely, I was so immersed in the culture. But I think you can tell I'm so happy being here. I really do love South Africa. It's such a fantastic place. The food is just next level. There's so many different styles and types, and you know, there's like a bunny chow and a potjie, and what's that thing called? It's like mince with egg on top. Like, it's the most randomest thing that you can think of. It's like, let's make mince and put an egg on top, but it's absolutely delicious. I can't even remember now for the life of me what it is called. And I mean, like, one of my friends as well, Kristen, like, she's also originally from South Africa, and her uncle used to own a South African store, and I mean, the two of us would get in the car and drive like 30 minutes out of our way to go to this shop, and you can get biltong and peppermint crisps, and you can get Fanta grape. And I mean, I went through a phase of trying to find as many different Fantas as I could, and like, when I actually, like, wholeheartedly, we made the decision, we're moving to South Africa now, we're telling people, I had one of those like, oh my gosh moments. I've just realised now, being in South Africa, I have like an unlimited supply of Fanta grape. Like, I was so happy with like all the different foods that we could get here. And you know, I'll never forget, like, here there's Pick and Pay, very similar to Tesco's and Sainsbury's, and you know, it's like one of the first nights we've gone into Pick and Pay, we're standing there at the till, and they've got like obviously all the little chocolates and everything like that that you can have, and I've literally just gone, oh my gosh, they have peppermint crisp! Like, in the middle of the store, literally that loud, if not possibly louder, and everyone just like looked at me, and I was like, tourist. But like, I could get that in England. It wasn't strange for me to see peppermint crisp. Like, you get peppermint crisp in South Africa. If anything, you'd go to South Africa, if anything, you would go to England and be like, oh my gosh, you can get peppermint crisp here. But because I had it in England, I was just so excited that I could now get it in South Africa as well. And there's so much for you to do and try. I mean, I can get in my car, I can drive like 20 minutes down one road, and I can get to a lion park where I can play with lion cubs. Like, you can actually physically touch and play with a lion cub. And it's not like England where you stand here at the fence and then there's another fence and there's the lion way over there in the distance, and you zoom in on your camera and you maybe might get a good photo. Like, you can actually play with a lion cub. And get this, you can do it with a cheetah too. Like, how amazing is that? Where else can you go and play with a lion cub or with a cheetah? And I mean, like, we had photos taken, and I'll ask my husband if he's still got them. I'll put it in here if I can find it. But like, to someone who grew up with like lions in the zoo and that's where you go to see them, to now being able to come here and play with a lion cub, like it's absolutely fantastic. Like when my mum came here the first time as well, I'm like, mum, come, I'm going to take you to now go play with lion cubs. Like, it's amazing what this country has to offer. And you've got obviously like your national Kruger parks and different things like that, and you can go to and you've got so many like little resorts that you can go to, and you can actually go to the bush and you can do game drives and go and spot all the animals, and you can go to Ngwenya and you can stand on your balcony, look over the river into the Kruger Park, and you can see like the buffalo that come out and the elephants and the giraffes, and obviously if you're lucky enough you can see like a lion and a cheetah, but it's not far of a drive and you can go in there for a day. Like it's just so brilliant. Like you travel within South Africa before you want to go abroad. There is so much. I mean, there's a crocodile farm and you can get crocodile meat, and I mean I've started having ostrich meat, and I even had like snails for the first time a few months ago. There's just so much to explore. The one thing I probably have to say I don't like about Johannesburg, not South Africa, Johannesburg, is that Johannesburg is so central that it's like a 6-hour drive to the beach. And people don't do that. Like you don't just get in your car and go, I want to go to the beach, and like off you go. And like one of the last things I did in England before coming here was, hey, how about we go to the Bournemouth beach? And like me, my boyfriend at the time, Tina and her boyfriend at the time, like we just jumped in the car and we went to the beach. And it's so much fun. Like you can just get in the car and go. And like I don't mind doing that now. Like we can literally go, okay, Friday, let's get the girls, put them in the car and drive down to Durban, and we can go and spend like the weekend at the beach. But the idea of spending 6 hours in a car is just something that you can't do. No, it's taboo. If you do that, there's something wrong with you. You must fly. But that's the one thing. Like I've been to the beach once since being in South Africa, and we went to Ballito. We went with my parents-in-law, and it was an absolutely brilliant vacation. It was a really lovely place. We went during the quiet season, so you know we didn't have to really worry about the girls running off or getting lost in the crowd around the pool area and at the beach and things like that. And it was just so quiet and so peaceful. It's like I found the place that I want to retire. It was literally that beautiful. I kept saying, I want to retire here. This is where I want to buy. I want to retire right here. Like you stand on your balcony and you see the sea. And I kid you not, it's not even like 100 meters away. There's the beach, there's the sea, right there in front of you. You can watch the waves crash, you can watch the dolphins swimming, you can watch the surfers in the morning. It's absolutely beautiful. But living in Johannesburg, yeah, there's such a far gap. And I still haven't been to Cape Town yet. You know, like I really want to go to Table Mountain. There's a garden route, there's a wine route. There's just so much that you can do there, and the restaurants, and like my husband's been there, he used to live there, and he keeps telling me about this seafood place, and I'm like, I really want to go. But again, like, well, but again, to get in the car and drive, it's not 6 hours. It's not 10 hours. It's 18 hours. So you have to like stop over, or in my husband's opinion, you don't drive. It's no taboo, you don't drive. You get on an aeroplane and you go, and obviously then it's costs that's involved with that. We then have to hire a car that side and different things, and it's the girls, and you know that they are a little bit too young to kind of enjoy everything that I want to do and go and see Table Mountain and things like that as well. So we have to keep that in mind, but that's still something that I'm going to do. I just haven't done it yet. And the funny thing is like when I speak to other South Africans and they ask me like, how do I love the country? And I'm like, I love it. It's brilliant. And then they go, oh, so you've been to Cape Town? I'm like, no. And before I'd been to Ballito and Durban, I would say I've not left Johannesburg. And their response would literally be, you've only seen the worst part of the country, but you are so happy. Like, no. This is like the worst part of the country. You can't love it as much as you do. And to see that, you know, like from another person's point of view, it's brilliant. And like, I tell everyone, go to England, be a tourist, especially go Christmas time, you know, with the snow and the Christmas carols and the lights and the trees. But to live there and to work there, it's just, I can't do it. That cold just, it like makes my bones hurt. I will not give up what I have here to go back to England. Like, it's brilliant, be a tourist, get to see the culture and get to see the history and really like dive into it. But to live and to work there, I didn't like it. Just the weather, I think, was the biggest thing for me. And I always had this idea of, I wanted to see the world. I didn't want to just stay in my little cocoon. I wanted to experience living in another country as well. And from the moment I came here, I've been in love with the country. Like, you can watch the news, you hear what happens going on in South Africa, and I mean, like, politics, there's politics in every country. I mean, have you heard of Brexit? So here we are in South Africa. I had heard all the horror stories that you could imagine about being a resident in South Africa, and particularly Johannesburg, what my boyfriend at the time's like aunt had gone through, and different things like that. So it was fair to say that they almost scared me in living here. Like, they didn't scare me and putting me off wanting to move. I literally had my heart set on it. That was it. The job transfer was through and we were going. I got my visa, etc, etc, etc. I never looked back. But I can say that I did have a little bit of fear in me about living in the country and different things like that. So we kind of made like a pact. We were going to give it 1 year living in South Africa, and if I didn't like it, or if my boyfriend at the time didn't like it, then we would go back to England. So I think the moment we got here, like, I was on cloud nine. I fell in love with the place, like, especially the weather and the nature. It's just so fantastic. And England is so cold and it's so wet and it's so miserable, and you know, I'm always like happy and upbeat, and people would always go, what are you on? I really want what you're on. And I'm like, I'm not letting the weather affect my mood. That's a very British thing, to let the weather affect your mood, but I refused for that to happen. But I mean, I spend most of the days now in the sun and enjoying being outside, as opposed to England, when I only really looked forward to when it snowed. Because in all fairness, when it's a hot day, the humidity is so high that like your clothes stick to you and you can't really enjoy the weather. The snow, 100%, that's like my favourite type of weather. I really, really miss the snow. I mean, I came like 6 years ago, August, and that Christmas I was saying to people, all I want is a snow machine because it's summer here. And I was like, I miss the snow, I wanted the snow, can I get a snow machine? And like I was saying, I fell in love with the place, and that whole fear of what people were telling me, like, literally had just escaped my mind. It was gone. It was like it was never even mentioned to me. And now my boyfriend at the time, he is Afrikaans, like I said, and he actually left South Africa. I think he was like 12 or 13, I don't even remember now, but he was young. And basically he came back for like holidays and birthdays and things like that, but he never came back to live. So he also didn't know what he was really walking into, and how much had the country changed, because you're talking 10 years later. So that was our pact that we made, that if we didn't like it, we would leave. And lo and behold, I fell in love with the place, and my boyfriend at the time kind of hated it, like really hated it. So, you know, he was completely under the impression that family's going to be here for him 100%, which didn't turn out that way. His job didn't turn out to be what he thought it was. Like in England, it was a really well-respected job. Here it was seen as like a really low, don't need any skill type of job. The salary wasn't as good as what he thought it would be, and until my visa came through, I couldn't work. And you know, in England, I was the breadwinner, so if he needed money, I would support him, and here in South Africa it was flipped. So we had our ups and downs, you know, and he had personal battles that he had to overcome as well with being here, and it wasn't what he expected. So we were really on the opposite end of the scale. So I really fell in love with being here, and he really didn't like it, but he had those odd moments where it made it worth it. If you're following me. So I was just 24/7. I was in love with the place, and he was constantly up and down. What is happening to my voice? Sorry about that. So I felt quite discouraged in that regard, like I didn't have the support that I necessarily wanted. So I got the, oh, congratulations, you know, wish you all the best, and, you know, you're going to be safe, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and, you know, like, we weren't going to be alone. My boyfriend at the time had family here, and we were going to be staying with them to start off with, and all of that sort of stuff. And I knew about my visa, what I must do to get it, obviously coming here, getting a job, and different things like that. And, you know, like in England, your experience counts a lot. Your knowledge and your experience counts a lot for the job and the career that you can get. Where here in South Africa, I might have experience that I got from my job in England, but because I didn't go to university and study it, they don't even consider me for the position. And then there's something here called BEE as well, which is Black Empowerment, and basically companies can say, we are looking for this type of person to fill this position, and one of the criteria can be legally that you have to be black, and because I'm white, it's not being discriminating. So I was fully aware of everything I was going into and the difficulties in perhaps maybe trying to find a job. Obviously, like my boyfriend's parents at the time, they were still living in England, so they were there able to tell me everything. Like when we moved over here, they stayed in England, and like I was fully aware of what I was getting myself into, which is why we had that pack as well with regards to, you know, let's try and make it last for a year, let's see how it goes. Like the security, yes, you know, what happened in the country with the crime, and we didn't know 100% like the area that we were going to be going to. We knew that it was like a nice area, but that was it. Like you can say Bracknell is a nice area, but if you go to Great Hollands, it's not one of the nicest areas of Bracknell. You know, like the same when I used to live in Warfield. I'm not from Bracknell, I'm from Warfield. It was that type of thing, like you don't know the areas. So we moved out here, and fortunately it was like a really nice area. It's considered an upmarket area, and when we came up from like the south of Johannesburg to like the north of Johannesburg, we still stayed in a very nice upmarket, you know, like area. You know, I knew what I was getting into. And funnily enough, the job that I actually got, and it's still my job now, I'm with a different company, but it's still my job now 6 years later. I was fortunate that I was driving by, I saw a sign, agents wanted, I walked in, I think I spoke with the receptionist, Stacey, for like an hour, and then she was telling me like how she's gone through the same thing, like her man is from Ireland, and she understood everything that needed to be done. And I was very fortunate that my manager, principal of that franchise, was happy to sign all of the forms that I needed for my visa, which allowed me to work. Otherwise, if I didn't have the job offer, I could live, but I wouldn't have been able to work, and then that would have made it like even harder for me and my boyfriend at the time to actually stay and survive, because his salary alone was not enough. And that's the other thing you really need to take into account when coming or when leaving the country. Like if you've got savings, brilliant, know how long that's going to last you for. And you know, like I always had my return ticket. That was the other flip side to the coin. When I bought my ticket to come here to South Africa, I had my return ticket. So if something didn't work out, if I didn't like the country, if I couldn't find a job, if I ran out of money, I can use my ticket and I can go home. And it's not the end of the world. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And every experience, you learn something from it. You build, you grow. That's how you mature and you become the person that you are. So it was definitely a really, really good experience. I don't think that I would do it again now. Like I've done it once, I had to rebuild my life, and now I am like in a country in my 20s, and I'm telling people I feel like I am 16 again, because I couldn't do anything. it was so difficult for me to get a bank account. Without a bank account, I couldn't go and get credit. And then on top of that, like, you can't get a cell phone contract if you don't have a credit record, but you can't get a credit record if you don't get like a credit card or a store card or a cell phone contract. And it was just so difficult to get any of those things. But if I think about it now and I look back at what I did, and if my daughters were to do that to me now and go, hey mum, I'm moving in 4 weeks, going to a country with my boyfriend, somewhere I've never been before, bye! Like, I would freak. I really don't recommend anyone just up and leave their country and go. It worked out for me. I definitely have people looking over me, but it's not something that I would recommend. Like, visit the country first and know where it is that you're going. I'm blessed in the sense that, you know, South Africa's got 11 official different language, English being one of them. So I don't have that issue with like a language barrier. Again, also, like, I wanted to go to America or Australia, and I kind of knew that the language was going to be a major part of choosing one of those countries. Like, I've been to Spain and Tenerife, and I did go to Ireland and Tunisia and all those other places as well. And, you know, for my 21st when I was in Tenerife, I really fell in love with being there. Like, I was at the beach, I could retire and I would be happy. But that language barrier was just, it was too intense, and we were fortunate that obviously we were on a resort and there were people there that would speak English. So coming here in South Africa, I can literally go to the shops, I can be by myself, and I know that I can communicate with people and there's not going to be that language barrier. But guys, I've never looked back. Like, if you look all over the internet, it's everywhere. It's people wanting to leave South Africa. And, you know, they've got issues with the politics and the crime and different things like that that's happening. And I think the one thing that's not brought to people's attention is what actually happens in England as well. Like, everyone goes, you're earning pounds. Yes, but you're also spending pounds. Like, it's not the same. With what I was earning in England, I was getting by. I could save, I could get what I wanted, the things that I liked, but I maybe wasn't necessarily saving as much as what I wanted to save. And then if you took that same amount and flipped it into South Africa, I would live like a queen. Like, I tell you now, I would be on cloud 9 living like a queen because of the exchange rate, and the cost of living here is so much lower than the cost of living in England. And, you know, like, people just automatically think that if they're going to go to England, they're going to earn all of this money and they're still going to be living the life they live here, and that's not the case, because you have to spend more in England. On top of that, there's a lot of people that I know who actually also hate the cold, and they've gone, and within like 9 months they've come back. Like, there's something about South Africa that you just can't escape from. And I think every South African that's ever left the country and gone abroad, whether that's to England, Australia, New Zealand, you know, any country, they always think of South Africa as their home. They always have that piece of them that wants to, like, almost call them home, because the country is so beautiful. Yes, it has its problems, but every country has its problems. The year I left England, I was one of 600,000 Britons who immigrated. That same year, there was a gentleman who came back from serving in Iraq for like 7 years, and like 200 meters away from his home, he was so severely injured that that's something you would have expected to happen to him in Iraq, not around the corner from his house. And his family had to go through that horrific time, losing their son, their brother, their grandson. You know, like, he's gone to Iraq, they cope, they deal, they know that they have a chance of losing their son while he's in Iraq, and then here he is in England. They think everything's hunky-dory, he's now home, they can celebrate and give him hugs and kisses, and that happens. So there are complete flip sides to both. Like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And definitely, if you are thinking of leaving the country and you want to go abroad or anything like that, just do your research, or at least go there on holiday first. You know where you're going to be, know the areas that you don't want to go to. Like, South Africa is such a beautiful country and everyone hops on like crime, 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 crime. But if you don't go to those areas, then you're perfectly fine. Like, yes, there's security in it. You know what? It's South Africa. You have to have it. Basically, that's what it boils down to. It's South Africa. You're crazy if you don't have it. Even if you live in like the richest areas or the safest areas, if you don't have like security protection, you're just being silly. But in my opinion, if you want to try and avoid the crime, you can. If you want to be a daredevil, if you will, if you want to be a daredevil and you want to go to those areas that aren't so safe, then go for it. But just bear in mind, you need to be that bit more precautious. And that's also where my mentality of thinking hasn't quite yet swapped over to like the South African way either. Like, I feel so safe here. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, my front door has a security gate. My windows, they've got burglar bars. It's like a nice pretty pattern. It's not as bad as what it sounds. It's not like a prison or anything like that. Like, you don't even really notice that they're there. But, you know, like the complex that I stay in also has security. There's armed response and etc, etc, etc. And as crazy as it sounds, I actually feel safer being here in South Africa than I did in England. And let me just tell you this. So now, go back 6 years or 7 years, I'm living with my boyfriend at the time. We're in our apartment. You know, we've got the standard front wooden door with like the key on the front, and then on the back, you know, you can lock it and you've got the chain. So now I was very, very security conscious in England, and like that mentality of mine's like now escaped me being here in South Africa. Like, that's how relaxed I am. So now he's saying like goodbye to friends and family, and he goes out for like his work do as like a leave-in work do. So mine was on a different day. I'm at home and I'm like, if you're not home by 12, I'm like, I'm locking the door. Like, stay with a friend, stay with your parents, but I am locking this door. So now it's the next morning, and bear in mind my boyfriend at the time didn't come home the night before, but here he is lying in bed next to me. He managed to unlock our front door and unlock the chain on the back that I put across, wait for this, with a coat hanger. Like, seriously, a coat hanger. You know, what you hang your clothes on? A coat hanger. He unlocked my front door lock and the chain on the back of our door with a coat hanger. Now, if that can happen in England, like, really, no matter where you are you safe? But I'm completely 100% digressing. I'm over the moon that I've moved to South Africa. It has been 6 years. I can't wait for my like citizenship to actually come through. It's going to be so much easier to travel because then I can get a South African passport, be the same as my girls and my husband. Like, when you go on holiday, like, you want to travel South Africa, you want to explore the whole country before you go abroad. There is just so much to offer here. It's absolutely fantastic. I really am. I'm in love with the country. I've got a fantastic life. I've got a brilliant husband. I've got my 2 daughters. My husband's family as well. I love them to pieces. They're so welcoming and warming. You know, I can talk to my mother-in-law like she's my own mother, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed with the fact that the family is so large. I've got 2 mother-in-laws. I've got 2 father-in-laws. There's cousins and aunties and uncles, and it's just, it's fantastic. And they were so warm and welcoming that it just makes it that much easier, especially if you have like a really good relationship with your in-laws. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I mean, like, I can talk about so much when it comes to like England and South Africa and the differences in the language, and you know, like, I can't give people directions because like the words are so different. And my husband, like, obviously we know each other inside out. He knows how to push my buttons. So if I ask for like a tea towel, he's like, what's a tea towel? Because believe it or not, a tea towel does not exist in South Africa. People do not know what a tea towel is. And like the food as well, there's like Aunt Bessie's Yorkshire puddings. You can't get them here. Like, believe it or not, you can't get them here. Wouldn't recommend that you just up and leave a country, and one that you've never been to. So it worked out for me, it really did, but there's horror stories with everything, and that's another thing I just want to bring to people's attention. Like, by all means, please go move country, just maybe do your research first. You know where you're going to stay, know the areas, what's safe, what's not, and different things like that, so that you can keep yourself safe. Like I said, within 4 weeks, we packed up everything. The cars were sold, the house was gone, we quit our jobs, like my savings was depleted, the aeroplane tickets were booked, and off we've flown to South Africa. And I've not looked back. I really haven't. I made the best decision at the time for me, and it's still the best decision now for me, even though my boyfriend at the time and myself are not together now. But it was absolutely the best decision. I would not have what I have right now if I didn't make that move. I wouldn't have met my husband, I wouldn't have met my girls. By all means, I would have met someone else and had children with them, but the girls that I have now wouldn't be the same girls, and I wouldn't give them up for anything. Not a single penny in the world. I truly made the best decision, and that's all that anyone can actually ask of you, is you do what is best for you and just make sure you're safe while doing it. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you've liked this, comment below if you've got any suggestions, and I'll speak to you in my next one.